Satyam and you are here on our one and all channel Satyam Ideal Learning. And guys, today's topic is about pollination. We will be discussing about what is pollination, what are the two types of pollination. Guys, if you have not watched my video of parts of a flower, parts of a typical flower, then please guys watch it out. It is a very nice video. It has been explained already what are the parts of a flower, and then come to this video for pollination. I will give the link in the description box, so don't worry. Okay. Now, pollination. What is pollination? Before discussing the pollination, may I revise you something? Like there are two kinds of flowers. One is unisexual and one is bisexual flower. As I have told you that there are four whorls of a flower. There are four whorls of a flower. What are those whorls? Calyx, corolla, gynoecium and androecium. So what are the four whorls? Calyx, corolla, gynoecium and androecium. Calyx form the sepals of a flower. Okay, calyx form the sepals. Sepals are green. Corolla forms the petals of a flower that are colorful. Okay, you see petals which are colorful. Okay, so calyx form the sepals and corolla forms the petals. Now, what are androecium and gynoecium? Androecium forms the male reproductive system, male reproductive organ. Okay, it forms the male reproductive organ, while the gynoecium forms the female reproductive organ. Okay, so androecium and gynoecium are clear. Now, it consists of androecium consists of stamen. Stamen is as like as androecium. Okay, so you can say androecium or stamen. So stamen, what consists of? It consists of a filament and an anther. And anther has dusty pollen grains, as you already know. Now, in gynoecium, gynoecium is also known as pistil or carpel, and it consists of ovary. It consists of an ovary, a style. A style is like a tube-like structure, and stigma, which is at the top. Okay, which receives the pollen grains which are produced by the anther of the male reproductive organ. Okay, by the stamen. This thing is clear. And unisexual flower is that flower which has either gynoecium or either androecium. Okay, so a flower which has either gynoecium or either androecium, then it is known as unisexual flower. And a flower which has both the organs, reproductive organs, gynoecium as well as androecium, then it is said to be bisexual flower. I think this must be clear. Alright, come on, what is pollination? Pollination is the very first step in the sexual reproduction in plant, and the definition of pollination is that the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is known as pollination. Okay, clear? So the transfer of pollen grains, dusty pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is known as pollination. When the anther matures, it produces pollen grains, and then the pollen grains go to the stigma. They are very light, they float in the air and they go to the stigma of the same flower or of the same flower of that plant only. Like I am a plant, I have two flowers. So if this flower anther is mature, so it will release the pollen grains from that side to my same flower, my another flower of the same plant. Okay, so my another flower of the same plant. It can be occur like this way. Now there are two types of pollination. One is self-pollination and one is cross-pollination. Now we will be discussing about self-pollination and cross-pollination. See, pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of same flowers or flowers born by same plant. You have to underline these things. Of same flower or flowers born by the same plant. Now, flowers which are born by the same plant. Like I am a plant, there are many flowers in me. Now, see, these plants are born by a single plant. Okay. So see, so pollen grains which are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. If this is a kind of flower, I am drawing just an example. And this is anther and this is stigma. Okay, this is stigma. So the anther is this and filament is this. So the pollen grain will go from there to the stigma of the same flower or to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Okay, clear? Now, so this is known as self-pollination. And what are the examples of self-pollination? I have written already: wheat, barley and peach, oat. These are some examples of self-pollination. See, it may occur in flowers in which anther and stigma mature at the same time. See, anther and stigma matures at the same time. So, it may occur in those flowers in which, those bisexual flowers, if the anther and stigma are maturing at the same time, then the anther will release pollen grains and the stigma will take immediately. So in a bisexual flower, we know that androecium and gynoecium are there, both are there. Then the anther will release pollen grains and stigma will take immediately. When they both mature at the same time, then also self-pollination occurs. Okay, I think this thing is very much clear to you guys. Now, see, we will be coming in cross-pollination. I have to tell one thing, that in self-pollination, it can occur like when a flower is closed. When a flower is closed, then also pollination can occur. Okay, when the flower is closed, then also pollination can occur. If it is a bisexual flower, then if the flower is closed, then it has androecium as well as gynoecium. When they will mature at the same time, then the androecium will release the anther will release pollen grains, and the gynoecium means stigma will take the pollen grains, and then it will form it will produce the new plant. Okay, as seed, in fruit as seed. Now, pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma of flowers of other plant of same species. This thing you have to remember. In this kind of pollination, what happens? The pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of other plant, but the species has to remain same. Okay, so pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of flowers of other plant, but the species will remain same, exact. Now, it occurs in flowers in which the anther and stigma mature at different times. When the anther and stigma matures at different times, then this occurs. Okay, then this cross-pollination occurs. Now, and those that have a barrier preventing self-pollination. Let's see, if a plant is doing cross-pollination regularly, if a plant always do cross-pollination, then it has some kind of barrier to prevent self-pollination, so that it can't occur the self-pollination, because it has the habit to do cross-pollination. So it will have a barrier so that it can prevent it from doing self-pollination. Okay. Now, the male and female flowers are born by different plants. the male and female flowers. If the male is there and the female is there, and the plant is also different, but the species is same. Okay, so it can occur like this way also. Then if the male releases the pollen grains, then it will float in the air and it will come to the stigma. Okay, it will float in the air and it will come to the stigma, and then it will go inside the stigma. This way cross pollination occurs. And the last point that I have to mark it out, the male and female flowers are borne by different plants, then also cross pollination occurs. And one example of cross pollination is apple. Okay, one example is apple. And in this I have to tell that I have told you that if a plant is closed, if a flower is closed, if a flower is closed, then also self-pollination can occur. And in self-pollination, the example that if a flower is closed is pansy. In pansy, if a flower will be closed, then also the pollination can occur. Okay. So thank you guys, and we will meet the next time. Our topic is over about the self-pollination and cross-pollination. So bye-bye and have a nice day.